Please remember these differences and choose how to phrase your invitation properly, depending on the situation or the relationship that you have with the person. こんにちは、ゆうこ先生です。今日のレッスンは、教科書元気のレッスン5からです。Today's lesson is from lesson 5 in the textbook 元気 Volume 1.I have been a Japanese language teacher for many years, and now I offer Japanese online courses to students all over the world. If you are interested, please check my school website at smilenihongo.com/class. Let's learn how to say shall we and let's in this lesson. To say shall we,You need to use this ending. ましょうか、ましょうか and combine that with the stem of the verb. To say let's, you use this ending. ましょう、ましょう and again, you need to combine that with the stem of the verb. What is the stem of a verb, by the way? This term, stem, is something that you are going to hear a lot in this course. So let's learn how to come up with the stem of a verb. First, when you look up a verb in a dictionary, you get a dictionary form or plain form of the verb like this. 会う, which means to meet somebody. You need to convert this plain form to the mass form. In this case, 会う is a う verb, so the mass form is going to be 会います。会います。And then, you drop the ます。This is the stem of the verb. So, to say, shall we meet in Japanese, you have to say, 会いましょうか。会いましょうか。To say, let's meet, you say, 会いましょう。会いましょう。Back in lesson 3 last quarter, you also learned this one. Do you remember? Why don't we? ませんか So if you want to say, why don't we meet? It's going to be 会いませんか会いませんか Now you know 3 ways to invite somebody to do something together or suggest a plan in Japanese. ませんかましょうか and ましょう In this case of meeting up with somebody, you can also be more specific with your suggestion like this. You can suggest a time to meet up. So, why don't we meet at 5 o'clock is 5時に会いませんか 5時に会いませんか Shall we meet at 5 o'clock is 5時に会いましょうか 5時に会いましょうか Let's meet at 5 o'clock is 5時に会いましょう。5時に会いましょう。Since 5時, 5 o'clock is a time expression, you have to mark it with the time marker 2. You can also suggest a place to meet up like this. Why don't we meet at Starbucks? スタバで会いませんかスタバで会いませんか Shall we meet at Starbucks? スタバで会いましょうかスタバで会いましょうか Let's meet at Starbucks. スタバで会いましょう。スタバで会いましょう。Since Starbucks is a place of action of meeting in this context, you have to mark it with the place of action marker で. When you use these three expressions in real life, just know that each one has a different tone like this. Out of the three, the ませんか expression sounds least pushy, and it's the easiest for the listener to decline the invitation. The ましょう expression on the other end is most pushy because it's even not a question, right? It doesn't have the question particle か at the end, so the listener even doesn't have the choice to say no. That's why this one sounds most pushy. Please remember these differences and then choose how to phrase your invitation properly depending on the situation or the relationship that you have with the person. Okay, the focus of this lesson, lesson 5, is these two. So let's practice suggesting something by using shall we and let's in Japanese. The first action is go, 行く. How do you say shall we go and let's go in Japanese? Right. 行く in must form is 行きます, right? So the stem is 行き. So you have to say 行きましょうか?行きましょうか for shall we go and 行きましょう。行きましょう for let's go. This one is a new verb from lesson 5. Ask, 聞く. Ask in Japanese happens to be the same as listen. Since you already know listen in Japanese, it's easy to convert it into the mass form, right? Right. 聞く in mass form is 聞きます。聞きます。So the stem is 聞き. Therefore, shall we ask is 聞きましょうか?聞きましょうか? Let's ask is 聞きましょう。聞きましょう。By the way, if you are going to indicate who you are going to ask, you need to mark the person with the particle に like this, as in ask to the person. So for example, if you want to say, shall we ask the teacher? You have to say, 先生に聞きましょうか?先生に聞きましょうか? Okay, this is another new verb from lesson 5. Swim, 泳ぐ. How do you say, shall we swim and let's swim in Japanese? Can you do this by yourself now? Right. It's going to be 泳ぎましょうか。泳ぎましょうか and 泳ぎましょう。泳ぎましょう。If you want to specify the location, you have to mark it as the place of action of swimming with the particle で. So for instance, let's swim in the sea or in the ocean is 海で泳ぎましょう。海で泳ぎましょう。Okay, let's try one more example. This is another new verb from lesson 5. To get on, ride, or board transportation means 乗る、乗る. Even though this one has る at the end, since the vowel right before the る is o, as in no, right? So this is a う verb, okay? So what's the mass form? Right, it's 乗ります, right? So the stem of this verb is 乗り. 乗り。Shall we ride is 乗りましょうか。乗りましょうか。Let's ride is 乗りましょう。乗りましょう。And if you want to specify the transportation mean that you're getting on, such as the bus, you have to say like this. バスに乗りましょうか。バスに乗りましょうか。When you use the verb 乗る, you have to mark any transportation means with the particle に because the direction of body movement is involved when you are getting on something. It doesn't matter if it's the bus, taxi, subway, train, or airplane. You mark any transportation means with the particle に when you use the verb 乗る。
こんにちは、ゆうこ先生です。日本語オンライン学校スマイル日本語アカデミーで日本語を教えています。I have been teaching Japanese for over 20 years and now I have my online Japanese school. If you are interested in learning Japanese with me, please check the available courses in the description box below. I look forward to having you as my student. 皆さんと一緒に日本語を勉強するのを楽しみにしています。ではまた次のレッスンで会いましょう。